Do you have all the things they say should make you happy, but you still feel unfulfilled? Are you always doing what you should do? Or do you never feel like you're enough? And you want to feel better, more fulfilled, more aligned, and more comfortable in your own body? Then this is the show. Scared as fuck and doing it anyway, showing up authentically. My name is Paula Schuster, and I'm a self-love and authenticity coach. My life completely changed when I started loving myself again, putting myself first, and being true to me. This is the show that's going to help you get out of being stuck, out of the cycles of self-abandonment, and help you choose yourself without feeling selfish. It will give you not only inspiration, but awareness, courage, and insights to make changes and live your life for you. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Scared as Fuck and Doing It Anyway, Showing Up Authentically podcast. You're with your host, Paula Schuster. And it's so good to be with you. Let's just do a quick check-in with ourselves. Like, how are we doing? How are you doing? Have you ever noticed that people always just say good when you ask them how they're doing, or I'm good? It's become this natural reflex in our society where we say we're good even when we're not. Even when we might be having the hardest times of our lives, we still say good when someone asks us how we're doing. And I really think that it's such a disservice to all of us, because you and I both know that words carry energy, especially when we're essentially abandoning ourselves when we're saying them. So I've been working really hard to not respond with good when someone asks me how I'm doing. And instead I tell the truth. You know, if things suck for me, then I say they suck. And if they're spectacular, then I say they're spectacular. When things are in the shitter and I tell someone I'm not doing well, I don't expect them to do anything about it. No, that's my job and my job only. And I think that's, part of the reason why people say, oh, I'm good, even when they're not, is because they don't want to, ruin someone else's day or put something off on someone. And that's not what we're doing. Anyway, I, for one, am sick and fucking tired of lying all the time about it and just saying good. It's ick. I can't even stand it now when someone says that to me. When I ask how they're doing and they say good, it's like, ugh, I almost cringe. So I guess this is an invitation to stop saying good when someone asks you how you're doing and instead tell the truth. And even if you are good, challenge yourself to use a different word, because it's just become this reflex. And telling the truth is one way that we can all be more authentic. I remember the episode I did with Coop Blackson. He said we have to stop lying to ourselves all the time. We have to stop abandoning ourselves and tell the truth. Well, this is one small way we can start to tell the truth and be more honest with ourselves and others. I don't know where that came from. It was just there when I asked how you're doing. I guess it comes from me hearing it all the time from clients. Like I said, it's everybody does it, but especially when my clients do it, I guess it's really been standing out to me. And we'll be starting our session and I'll ask how they're doing and they say good. And then I proceed to find out that they aren't good at all, So anyway, there it is. An invitation for you to become more authentic while not really putting anything on anyone else and just being honest. So maybe a better question as I start today's episode is, what's going on? What's happening with you? I hope you're well. And I just want to say I love you and thank you so much for being here and for tuning in today. Okay, how I really want to start this episode, and you might be hearing a loud truck in the background because my window is open. I was thinking my microphone was better than that, but lately it's been picking up all this extra background noise, so I don't know. Anyway, how I really want to start this episode is to share that we sold our house. We signed a purchase agreement about a week ago, and we're past the inspection period. as of the airing of this episode. So, so it's more solidified, and we're feeling so happy and great and excited and relieved and ready to move on to our next chapter. I have to tell you, like, the buyers wrote us this letter, and it was the only letter we got. And people people around me had been asking me, did you get is anyone writing you letters? And then all of a sudden we got one. So I love that. But when I read this letter, like, I instantly knew they were our people. I actually fell in love with them a little bit when I read it. And I'm so glad they're the ones buying our house. I think our house can feel it too, that they're the ones, I know that it may sound weird to some people, but that's okay. I like being weird. But we had been talking to our house and telling the house that it was time to let us go, and it's time for us to move on, and that we would be finding the right owners for it. And I had, gone around and I cleared the house with Palo Santo and loving intentions. And Kara and we had changed our energy about what was possible, and bam, like, it just sold. Oh, and I have to tell you a quick story too. Like, we were out of the house for a showing. I don't know, it was maybe a week or so before we sold the house, maybe a little bit longer. And we're out having dinner, and we get a call from our realtor, and she says, I just want to let you know that when you get back to your house, there might still be a potential buyer there, because one of your trees fell down on his car and crushed it. We were like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? And she was like, no, one of your trees fell on his car and crushed it. And we were just like in disbelief. Like, all we could do was laugh, because we, like, what else do we do? Not laughing at the guy that happened to his car, but just at the whole situation. Like, what the fuck? Who does this happen to? So anyway, like, there were some strong winds that night, and he had parked his car on the street, and we have this tree right at the end of our driveway, and the winds caught it, and it took a huge part of the tree trunk down. Like, not the whole main trunk stayed in place, but like this offshoot major other big trunk fell down on his car. It was a freaking Range Rover with the whole roof was a sunroof, so it was glass. It was just like, oh my fucking God. Anyway, the city ended up, coming and dealing with it, because it was in the road and like all this stuff. But thankfully the city came and got the trunk, the huge part off his car, and they're going to come and take the rest of the tree. But it was just like, oh my God, what is this house doing? Like, it doesn't really want us to leave. And so then that's when we were like really talking to it and like smudging and, telling it like it's time to release us. And anyway, so there's that. So anyway, we've been looking for places to live. We know we're going to rent. I think I had mentioned this before, but we know we're going to rent, because after we land from this move, we just don't know what's going to be next for us. So we don't want to buy yet. And so we're just going to like land wherever we land. We're going to settle in, and we're going to just let things unfold in the present. That just feels so good to me. And just allow, we might move again in a couple of years, or it might be sooner. We just don't know. So we're just going to let it be. We're going to let it find us, I guess, or just let it unfold, like I said. And at least that's how we're feeling right now. So, and if you listen to my last episodes about the kids, you know how they're feeling about all of it. And there hasn't been much change there, except for I think my daughter's getting a little excited about staying at her auntie's house, or at least I hope she is. It's hard sometimes to tell with teenagers, especially girls, in my opinion, because things can change so fast. And I'm not knocking that in any way, because I'm a girl and things change fast for me too. I'm just saying, Riley is hard to read sometimes. I also want to let you all know that Kara and I are doing much better. So that's such a relief. And thank you so much to everyone who reached out to me to let me know that I can lean on you when I'm having those things going on in my life. It means so much to have my sisters. But we've both made changes in how we're interacting with each other. And we also decided to stop focusing on the things that were making us doubt our future together. So, like, for example, Kara really needs to root down in a place and have a permanent home where she lives for years and years, where she can have her art out and have all these different sort of, stations of art, and that it can just be out permanently and for a long time. And I have like a gypsy-like feeling down deep in my heart where I would love to move around more and experience a lot more. And I've always had this feeling ever since I can remember, like when I was a kid. I remember being a gypsy one time for Halloween, and oh my God, I just loved it. But ever since I can remember, I've never allowed myself to live that way, even though I have this deep calling and need to just like go wherever the wind blows me. Well, part of what we were doing was focusing on those differences. And that made us feel like we weren't really sure what that meant for our future. And then one day in my meditation, it just came to me that we needed to stop focusing on that and just be in the present. Live in the present, appreciate each other in the present, do and worry about what's immediately in front of us and not worry about the future. So I said it out loud to her, and I asked how she felt about just landing where this move takes us and not thinking beyond that right now. We'll settle in, like I said, I told her, and just let things be, see where things takes us from there. And she said that felt good to her and it feels good to me. So that's what we're doing. And it took some of the pressure off, that we were feeling, and it wiped away, those questions that we had about our future and if we want the same things. Because I really think we do want the same things. And I know when they are different, the universe is going to take care of us. Like, we'll each get our fix. We'll each get what we want and what we need somehow. And I'm just not worried about it anymore. So I just believe and trust that we're going to be taken care of in that way. So we're doing better. And of course, it also helped that we sold the house. But, we were actually doing better before that happened. So I'm glad to report that. Now on to the guest for this week. Julia Christine is on the podcast with me today. Oh, and this woman, oh man, I don't even know where to start. I adore her. When you have a conversation with someone and there's just an instant click, a sisterhood, a connection where you don't waste time with small talk and you go right into the good stuff and the things that really matter. That's what this episode is. And that's how it went from like the second that we met each other. So, and I've experienced that with many of the women that I've met from Kathy Heller's world and in my podcasting program. But with Julia, it's just a bit different than with everyone else. There's just something about her. And for me, she's just so easy to talk to and such a safe place and all the things. And what's really cool is that I got to meet her in person a couple weeks ago at the first ever women's podcasting summit that I went to in LA. I mean, the whole event was fucking incredible and fantastic and so inspiring. There were so many, beautiful women who were these wonderful examples. And it was just super awesome and amazing to hug Julia in person. And it was just a highlight of my trip there for sure. Aside from all of the things I love about Julia, and there are a lot of things that I love about her, which I'll get into in a sec, but I love her story and how she talks about things and the words that she uses and how she says it. And I love all that I learned by talking with her. I mean, I just adore being in this woman's energy. I think that's a big part of it, is her energy. Like, it's so like, it just pulls me in. It's like so attractive and appealing, and it just feels so easy to me. And she's upbeat and she's joyful and fun and genuine and just so authentic. She just like oozes authenticity to me. She has an amazing personality, and you can just feel it all being in her presence. Like I said, there's just something about her for me. And listening back to this episode to prep it was just what I needed this week. It's just was such medicine to me. And I think I'm going to be coming back to this episode over and over and over again because it just does something for me. And in fact, I think it might be the best interview so far on the podcast. So you're going to want to listen in. We cover so much ground from, oh my God, so many things, from weight to sex, to self-talk and self-hatred, to self-love, to listening to your inner voice, to boundaries, to awareness being the key to change and transformation, to worthiness, to choosing your heart, to creating the life that you're living. Like, there's just so much magic squeezed into this one episode, and yet it doesn't feel packed or rushed at all. It just like unfolded so beautifully, and I can't wait for you to hear it. So without further ado, please welcome the lovely Julia Christine. Welcome, Julia. I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. I have been looking forward to this conversation for as long as we've had it scheduled, and even before, since like we first talked, which was like 3 months ago when we first got connected. And I've been so looking forward to it, not only because of your story, and I love your story, which I only know, like a little bit of, but because of your energy. I love being in your energy. So welcome.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you. I am so excited to be here. And honestly, I feel the same way about you. Like, it was one of those things, like, because we met through a community, like, and so on Facebook and stuff, and I'll see your posts. There's just something about her. Like, and so then when we connected, it was like, yep, like all of those thoughts were confirmed. So I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, start off by telling listeners a little bit about you and your story. Yeah.
My story. Ooh, my story.
Yeah.
My story goes back, back and back. So, I have a massive weight loss story. And so there's that part of my story, but that led me to where I am today. And so that's why I usually start with that. So I've dealt with it's so crazy. I'm sorry, I'm already digressing. It's just crazy how the more you grow, the more you can reflect on your story in a different way. And like, I see it so differently now than I did even last year, like even 3 months ago, because like I am continuing to grow. But my whole life I've dealt with weight issues. And the reason why I say ooh is because I really think that my whole life, what I actually dealt with was this false idea that I was the biggest one in the room.
Yeah.
I was a huge baby. I was 24 inches long. I was 11 and a half pounds. I was born a toddler. Do you know what I mean? So I was a big baby. And so there's no denying that. I'm tall. I'm all of these things. But I think I encouraged myself to be overweight, if that makes sense, because I owned and claimed my bigness. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, fast forward a little bit to in 2020, I'd been through all the different diets. I've probably lost the same 85 pounds 85 times, like seriously. Yeah. And I was approaching 300 pounds. I'm 5'8", so that's considerably overweight. Mm-hmm. But in addition to my weight, I was spending 60 to 80 hours a week at work. I was running myself to the bone. I was disengaging from friends and even my family. My mom and my brother and I are like super close, and I was starting to bail on them because I was just at work. And I started to realize that I was like a shell of a person, because I would go to like a party for a friend and realize like I had nothing to contribute to any conversation unless we were talking about what I did for a living. I could talk about that till I was blue in the face, but outside of that, there was nothing to me. And I knew there was more, but I couldn't access it. Like that's all I did. So that's all I was. It's all I was around. And I started having a conversation with a dear friend of mine in California and was just like, if this is my purpose, I don't want it. I'm done, And she was like, well, let's get you on a diet. And I was like, this isn't about my weight. It really isn't. Like, there are plenty of people who weigh 300 pounds who are happy. Yeah. I just want the happy, you know? And so I'm sick of trying to lose weight. I don't want to lose weight. I want to be happy. And you know what? I've never tried to be 300 pounds before. So maybe this is where I'm supposed to be, which of course she argued with. But probably the third time we had this conversation, I was like, this is it. I'm done. And the only reason why
Yeah.
I didn't walk away from that conversation and end my life was because all I could think about was my mom finding me and how it would absolutely ruin her and my brother. And it was
Yeah.
like, I can't do that to them. And so now
I
looking
didn't
back,
know that it came to that point. Like, I don't
oh
know that you
yeah,
told me that before. Yeah.
yeah. The people pleaser part of me saved my life because I didn't save my life for me. I saved my life for my mom.
Wow. So
Isn't that
great.
crazy to think about
Uh-huh.
it that way?
Wow.
So, so thank you, 6 and 7-year-old Julia, for putting that in place. I no longer need it, but but thank you for having that in place because it saved me. Um, so then the next morning, because the universe works the way it does, a friend and coach of mine who had coached me on a weight loss program several years prior called me and said, "Would you want to do this?" And I was like, "No, no, I don't." But the thing about the weight loss program that she coached, it works more about healthy habits and less about like a diet,
Yeah.
and so but the method that it uses allows for you to regulate the parts of your body like your insulin levels and your hormones and your honestly your brain function. And so
Right.
all of a sudden, not only do you have more energy, you're eating better, you're losing weight, but also like there's this crazy thing that happens in your brain where you have more capacity. And like I remembered being in meetings and just being like, I feel like I'm absorbing everything that everybody's saying. And they're like, I can watch all the pieces kind of fitting together. Like it was crazy. And I remember that clarity. And I knew that I had to get my head under control because otherwise I was going to end my life. Do you know what I mean? So like
Mhm.
that's the part that I needed. And so when she called me, I was like, no, I don't want to be on a diet. I don't want to lose weight. And then it was like, wait, I need that mental part. I need that. So how do I get that? And how
Right.
you get that is to do the program. So I said yes. It literally arrived and sat in my house for a month because when you don't love yourself, you don't want to take care of yourself. You don't want to necessarily fix yourself or make yourself feel better.
Uh-huh.
Finally, she was like, all right, we're going to do this. And so I started, and within 2 weeks, that mental clarity started to like show up. I'd lost a little bit of weight. I'd, probably well, I had decided that I needed to start yoga. And so that first yoga session is where everything changed. And that was because I did it 30 minutes in, again, approaching 30 pounds. Now, remember, this is COVID 2020. So it was June 2020. I hadn't actually left my house except to take the trash in like 3 months. So I'm not exercising. I'm not moving. I live in New York. I walk everywhere. So even at 300 pounds, I was walking a mile a day minimum.
Yeah.
And so but I hadn't done that now for 3 months. And yet at the end of my yoga session, it was terrible. It was awful. Like I couldn't do anything. And it hurt and all of the things I felt weak. I pride myself in being strong. I pride myself in being flexible. None of that came through on that yoga practice. And I was like, what the actual fuck? And like I lay on that mat crying, just hating myself. Like just self one more time, self-deprecation, like the city. That's where I spent the majority of my life.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that extra part of my brain, that voice in my head was like, hang on a second. Why are you expecting to be so good at this? You haven't done yoga in over 15 years. You haven't moved in 3 months. You haven't, you are overweight and you haven't done these things. So why would it have gone any differently? If you keep doing it, it's going to get better. And for the first time in my life, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I chose that side of the fence instead of staying in self-deprecation.
Thank God for that
Yeah.
voice.
I mean, right? And I'm like, but literally, I feel like that's the first time in my life that I heard that voice and then followed it instead of staying stuck. And the next day I did it and it got better. And I ended up doing yoga every day for just under 3 years. And I love yoga and I very much encourage a daily yoga practice. I'm honestly trying to get myself back into a daily practice. And yeah, it was incredible. And that was it. And then when I started listening to that voice and I started being more aware and conscious of the choices I was making, and that includes the thoughts I was having about myself.
Yeah.
Like I started asking myself, and not regularly, like it takes time to build this muscle up, this awareness muscle, and it's
Practice.
slow going, but I start asking myself, is that true? Like one of the things that I always talk about is that like if I'm running late, which I often do, I would text my friend, be like, I'm the worst. And like I started typing that, I was like, wait, I'm not the worst, I'm just late. Like, so why would I say that? And so I would take it back. Um, and so anyway, that was really the major shift, the mindset shift, and or the start of it anyway. So fast forward 10 months in, I lost 130 pounds.
Wow.
I went from a size 22 to a size 4, and it was incredible, and it still is. And I started coaching this program and have helped quite a few people lose weight in this program. But as I continued, again, life is a journey. It's not just a destination. And while I had lost the weight and I was helping people lose weight, I continued to grow and expand and think about my life. And I ended up leaving my job because I realized that I was miserable, and that even though I had put boundaries in place for the first time in my life, like I talked to my boss at one point and she said to me, she was like, we feel like we've hired a new person. Like you are not this, like it's almost like we don't know who you are because
Amazing.
yeah, no, and I took it as a compliment. I don't think she meant it as one.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
but I took it as a compliment. I was like, cool, that's awesome. That means I'm on the right path.
Right.
Um, and realizing that who I spent more time with, realizing, and I know this now, I hid in work because if I wasn't at work, I was home alone by myself and I didn't like myself. I didn't know myself. And so part of coaching and part of even coaching other people, you ask, well, what's your why and what do you want? And people would ask me what I want, and I don't know. I don't know what
Right.
I want.
I went through
I,
that too. Yeah.
yeah. And I
Yep.
realized I don't know what I want because I don't know who I am.
Yep.
And so I started taking or trying to find ways to figure out who I am. And well, not one of, but in my opinion, the way to do that is to get in touch with yourself. And how do you do that? I talk to myself a lot, but also like breathe. I have incorporated a breathwork practice into my life. And I believe that what that does is it allows me to connect to myself. It allows me to really find myself and get in tune with myself so that I can live what Rebecca Campbell calls a soul-led life, so that my soul is making the decisions for my life. Who I am really and what I really want for myself is allowing me to make those decisions and not the influence of the world around me. And so that's where one of the things that I'm super passionate about now is like, let's explore those beliefs. Like, do you believe that? Or is that what your mom taught you to believe because it was what she was taught to believe? Is that what your religion taught you to believe? Is that what society has told you is true?
Yep.
Is it true? Is it true for you? And if the answer is no, that's okay. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's okay. So
Yeah.
let's start getting curious about that. Let's like, okay, cool. So that's not true for me. So what is true for me and what do I really want? So anyway, that has been the practice since then. So now my business is expanding outside of just health. And so that's why I call myself a complete wellness coach. I believe very strongly that there are 5 major facets of wellness. I consider those to be like the branches of the tree of our life, like of an
Yep.
individual. And that is physical wellness. So definitely nutrition and fitness, mental wellness, huge, spiritual wellness, sexual wellness, and financial wellness, because those are the big things that we that are going to cause us pain points. Those are the big things that are going to cause us stress, that we're going to find joy in, that we're going to like all of the different things. Those are the big things that people don't want to talk about, that people don't want to, they're going to have massive influence on our well-being. And so I believe that, so that's why I focus on those 5. The pathway to that, what supports those 5 is your awareness. And so awareness is the trunk of the tree, becoming aware of what's actually going on, getting curious when you start having those thoughts and asking yourself, is it true? Do I believe that? That kind of thing. And how you build that awareness muscle. Like, how do you build awareness? Like, how you just become more aware? You just work on it how? So I believe that breath work are like the roots of your tree. And so you connect to yourself, you connect to the center of the universe through your breath work that then supports and builds your awareness muscle that allows you to explore in the branches of your tree.
Wow. Wow. All of that. I mean, your story is just like so, I don't know, like heartbreaking, but amazing at the same time. And then like all that you talked about really is just, it was so beautifully said and articulated. And it's really like the heart of authenticity too. So it's just so perfect for this conversation for my podcast. You are amazing, lady.
Thank you. Thanks.
Um, so I love that you started listening to your voice, right? And following the breadcrumbs, right? And questioning, getting curious, like, who does this really belong to? Does this belief belong to me? Or is this really something that's been passed down to me, right? Because all go through life in that way. So many of us anyway, where we are just like going through the motions and just doing what we were taught, what we were told, thinking about that, thinking in those ways instead of really going, how does that feel for me? Not listening to how our bodies feel and what our bodies are telling ourselves about how we're thinking and believing and acting. But that's like the key.
Yeah. And it affects all those parts of us. Like you are told from infancy that you have to grow up to get a 9 to 5. This is just what you do. Says who? Says the world around you. But is that true for you? I can tell you it wasn't true for me because my 9 to 5 killed me. I allowed my 9 to 5 to kill me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so there's your financial box. What does it mean? What's your money story about? Or what are your beliefs around money?
Yeah.
Is money evil? Like, is that true? All of those things. And then I'll be honest with you, it was actually getting in touch with, I say my sexuality, but I mean like having sex. After I lost all the weight, like all of a sudden I had more confidence and I hadn't dated in 20 years. And I had a conversation with this man. He was married, but there was an attraction. And we had an amazing conversation and an amazing connection. And it was like, my friend was like, what's going on? And I was like, nothing, we're just talking. But it hit me. I can be attracted to men and they're attracted to me. And I can have conversation. Like this is actually available to me. So then I started exploring and I explored and had a really good time. But all of the structure, this box of how much sex you're supposed to have, how you're supposed to have it, how like how many people you're supposed to have it with, how many dates you need to go on before you have it. Like, who says any of that shit?
Right.
That's up to me to decide and what my beliefs are and how it affects my energy and what I take on and who I open myself up to. Like that has nothing to do with what my mom taught me, what her mom taught me, what society thinks. I had this conversation with one of the guys that I went on a date with, and he was like, well, I guess it comes down to being a morals issue. And I go, it's not a morals issue when the rules are different for one gender than it is for the other. The rules are different for women. Women are not allowed to sleep with a lot of men, or they get a label.
I know.
Men don't get that label. Do you know what I mean? So like that has nothing to do with morals. If it were morals, it would be genderless. It's absolutely a structural or like a social structure or a religious structure that has been passed down. And then I can go into all that. And so then I was having this conversation with my friend Shannon, and she was like, it's about finding balance. And I was like, is it though? I don't know that it is. I think it like, anyway, I can go on about this, but like, you can be a sexual being and be a spiritual being at the same time. And growing up in an organized religion, those two were very separate things.
Yes.
Those two things did not intertwine. But actually, I am a spiritual being and I'm also a sexual being. And so I'm going to honor both parts of those, both of those parts of myself, and I deserve financial independence and freedom. And I deserve you know what I mean? And so like, that's what I mean. Becoming aware of what's important to you or who you are at your core, that allows you to blow up those boxes that you've been kept in from infancy because of generational narratives and societal structures. And then again, it applies to everything. I go back to nutrition and like, I can't tell you how many women I've worked with who tell me that, they're on their period, so they have to eat all this chocolate. And I'm like, says who? Says every ad on television tells you that that's true.
Yep.
That's the only reason why you think it's true. It's because it's what your mom did. It's because it's what your friends did. You don't need chocolate. You don't need chocolate. You
No.
can have chocolate, and I'm not going to judge you for it. But I want you to think about why you think you need it so much. Is it because you really need it or because you've been told that you need it?
Mhm.
I mean, my friend just sent me this thing yesterday because Valentine's Day is coming up,
Yeah.
and Kotex is now is now making a box of chocolates that comes with like your favorite feminine hygiene product and chocolates. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God, really?
yeah. Now their approach is a little bit different. It's not necessarily about like women needing chocolate to get through their period, but like it's like, really? Like why are we putting these two things together? But I say the same thing about breakups. Like name a rom-com where a woman doesn't get broken up with that she doesn't go and eat a pint of ice cream.
Yeah.
It's what we think we need to do when we're depressed because we're told that every day.
Everywhere you
Not
turn.
because it's true for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
But until you're aware of why you're making these decisions and choices, that you don't realize that you're kind of caught up in this narrative, let's say. And I want to say, I think this is really, really important that as you start to get curious, that there's no judgment in this curiosity. It's not, why would I think that? Why would I say that? And we're not getting hard on ourselves. Approach it from a place of, huh, you can't be mad at yourself if you're going, huh, that's
Yeah.
weird. Why would I say that? Do I really think that? Is that true? Interesting. Where does that come from? And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden we're exploring and we're coming from a positive place of like, ooh, I wonder what's really true for me. And not, you are an idiot for thinking this. You have lived your whole life this way, because that kind of judgment just leads to guilt. And I always say this,
And shame.
guilt and shame are literally the swamp of despair. Do you remember the movie, The Never-Ending Story?
Yeah.
When the little guy's leading his white horse through this mud and like it's like the swamp. It's not called the swamp of despair, but like it literally engulfs, like it takes this horse because he can't get out of his head. And that's what guilt is. You cannot move forward if you are mired in guilt and shame. And so there's no productivity there. So let's switch that. Let's get out of that. Let's get curious in a non-judgmental way. Don't allow yourself to get mired down because you won't move from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So, I mean, awareness is totally where it's at. I mean, that's sort of part of my story too. Like that's
Yeah.
when I became more aware of like everything, right? That's where shifts happened for me all along, right? When I became aware that I was living my life for everybody else and what I thought everybody's expectations were, right? When I became aware that I didn't love myself, that I actually fucking hated myself,
Yes.
that's when I was able to go, okay, well, we got to start turning this around, Paula, right? Like,
Right.
no, we got to start making changes. So awareness, it just is, it's everything.
Yeah, it so is. And it's not always easy to be aware. When you're aware that you're making choices that aren't moving you towards your goal, but you're making them anyway, you know what I mean? That's not always easy. And a lot of times
Right.
it comes in, um, let's say, layers. And so like there's a book called The Self-Healing Spiral. And so I always imagine this like this spiral that's working its way up. And it's like you encounter an issue and you become aware of something and you make some choices and changes around it. And you're like, okay, cool, I understand. And then you come back around and you hit it again and you become a little bit more aware about that
Yeah.
situation. And you continue to, and that works also when you're healing. Sometimes you're like, okay, cool, I went through that. Ugh, that was awful, but I went through it and I understand. And so I can move forward. And you do. And you keep going up. And then you hit it again. A wound isn't fixed just because you put a Band-Aid on it.
Right.
And so it takes sometimes a little bit. And so allow yourself the grace to experience more awareness, more awakening, more healing. And that it's not that that's flawed or that you need fixing. It's just a matter of like, I've got 45 years of self-hate. So I'm working
Practicing
on year
healing.
3
Yeah.
of actually trying to love myself. And it's a process. Like
Yeah.
I was talking to you before we started recording about how like I've got all this stuff going and I'm just not doing anything with it. So what am I doing with my time? Well, it was made very aware to me yesterday. I'm giving my time away to all of the people around me still, even though I know that I understand now that I'm a people pleaser and that is my impetus, is to put everybody before me. And I know that that's not healthy for me. And yet here we are. And I'm encountering that again. And that's okay, because now I'm like, okay, this is what this is. I'm aware of this. I can recognize it and move through it in a more profound, powerful way and continue that spiral upwards, if that makes.
And you don't sit in it for as long either, right? Because of your awareness,
Absolutely.
right? You're able to identify it, acknowledge it more quickly.
Yeah. My friend
And,
Donna says you're allowed to have shitty human moments,
yes.
because guess what? You're human. It's
Mhm.
gonna happen. But instead of just continuing to shit on yourself, have a pity party, but then get up.
Yep.
You know better. And like, okay, have a shitty day, but know that you're claiming that you are giving into that, and that's okay. We're not going to judge, remember? We're going to have it and we're going to move on. We're going to start the next day better, or I don't like using the word better, more aware. We're going to start the new day in gratitude instead of in, oh yeah, this is where I was yesterday. No, you've slept, you've reset. Let's start out in gratitude. See what
Yep.
can happen today.
Yeah. And so I think kind of what you're describing, and because with awareness comes, right, this radical responsibility that we have to take for ourselves and everything in our lives, the decisions we're making, all the things, right? And I think
Mhm.
it's basically just kind of what you were explaining too,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rumi, there's a poem by Rumi, and the whole poem is fantastic. But the thing that resonates with most people is towards the end, it's don't go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Don't go back to sleep. And sometimes it would feel so much easier just to turn it off. It would, and again, you can relate this to any part of your existence. You can, um, it would be so much easier to just go get fast food every night. You know that. It would just be so much easier.
Is it
But
though, really?
well, that's what I was going to say. That's where that term choose your hard comes from.
Yeah.
Sometimes eating well is a hard choice to make. But guess what? Being sick is a lot harder.
Yeah.
Needing to take pills every day so that you can keep your sugar low, and there's no judgment in that statement, but that's hard. It's hard to remember, it's hard to pay for, it's hard to keep track of. So let's take steps now so that we don't have to get there, or we don't have to go back there. And like I said, hitting the same lesson again, here we are again.
Yeah.
And why does it hurt so bad? And how come I can't let go of this? And easily to go down into that judgment, but don't go back to sleep. Sometimes it feels like a friend of mine said this to me, like, once you're aware, and
Can't
that can be
unsee it.
challenging,
Can't unhear it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's,
I'm going to say awareness comes at different levels, like we've talked about. And sometimes the people around us aren't aware.
mm,
And so that means sometimes we have to leave them behind as we continue to move forward.
yeah.
And that's hard and that's painful. But the best part about it is that there are more people who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And I can say that so strongly because I had to, I have left some people behind, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to clarify, I'm not saying I'm better than them. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying that I left all of my friends at my old job behind. You know what I mean? Because I moved on with my life. It's the same thing. I continued to move on. I'm still in touch with them. We still say hello, but they are not as powerfully part of my life as they were before.
Mhm.
And now I've been exposed to this amazing community. And I would not have met you
I know.
if I hadn't left them behind.
Right.
And so I just want you to know that sometimes if you feel like you're so alone, you're never alone. You are never alone. You are, whether you like it or believe it or not, you are surrounded by spirit and by
Yes.
people who have gone before you, who are rooting for you, who are carrying you, who are moving you forward. And you're about to encounter more people physically. I bet there are people across the country who you could reach out to. There's always someone there. The
Mhm.
other part of not being alone is the thoughts you're having, the self-doubt, oh my gosh, can I go out in this outfit because I don't want people to judge me, or I don't want to make this statement on Facebook, or I don't want to put this offer out because people are going to judge me. You are not the only person having that thought. So even in how we think, you're not alone. These thoughts of self-doubt and self-deprecation, it is human for us to go negative. So you're not alone in those thoughts. Other people are thinking them too, which means you're going to get through it because they have, and that there's always somebody to turn to. Somebody else out there absolutely understands where you are.
Yep. And you're gonna touch somebody by making the move and doing it and saying it and putting the offer out or whatever it is. And
Absolutely.
it's almost selfish when we aren't sharing those things, because we can, one word, one phrase that we say or one thing can really make a difference in somebody's life.
Right.
So I love that, but I love how you talked about, leaving people behind, and that might feel bad because, and that's our codependency coming in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what are they going to think? And, oh, I don't want them to feel bad. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to think, or that I think that I'm better than them or whatever. That's not what it's about. You aren't responsible for everybody else's feelings. You're responsible for yourself and yourself only. And when you do start to be your most authentic self and shine your authentic light, your tribe finds you. And
Absolutely.
it's like there's so much magic in that.
Oh, I'm overwhelmed by the amazing people that I've met through this journey.
Same.
I'm so fucking grateful. Like, I'm often overwhelmed by gratitude
Yes.
for the people in my life, for where I am, for like the world in front of me, for my life, for like, I can go on and on and on about that. One thing to remember, and this is something that you realize as you become more aware of your thoughts and aware of things, how you are responding and not reacting to things. Awareness allows you to take a little bit of a space between you and what's going on. And so no one can make you, this was a hard one for me to believe in, to allow to be true. No one can make you feel or do anything.
That's right.
He didn't make me anything. I chose to anger to whatever his behavior was.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a choice. And so if someone is mad at you, that is their problem.
Yep.
That is their issue. Now, you can look at the situation and, again, take that 50,000-foot view of like, is that true? You're mad at me for this thing that I did. Is that true? Did I do that? No, I didn't do that. That's not what I said. Okay, so then this doesn't have anything to do with me. This isn't about me. I'm going to let you keep talking. And then there's is that true? Yeah, it is true. I did do that thing. But is that part of who I am now? Or do I need to do something to change that? No, I don't want to change that. So this is about you reacting to my changes and the boundaries that I've put in place.
Yep.
Go ahead and react. That's about you. I don't have to take that on.
Yeah.
And then finally, is that true? Yeah, it's true. Do I want to be different than that? Do I want to change? Yeah. And then you can actually interrupt somebody's diatribe and say, you know what? You're right.
You're right.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I'm going to take some steps to work on that. And then you could even say, I'm going to make the effort to do this, this, and this. And now what are they going to say to you? You've just diffused a situation by owning, I can do better. And so that I'm going to. Or, okay, you can be angry because that's your anger. It doesn't have anything to do with me, and it doesn't take it on, and you don't have to take it on.
Yep.
So if somebody's mad at you, it's none of your business.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with you.
I say that to my clients too. Like, get out of their business.
Yeah.
It's
remember
not,
that
yeah.
so little that we react and respond to and honestly make decisions on has nothing to do with you.
Right. Right. Because everybody's more worried about themselves anyway with everything.
And that's where I always go back to, you're not that special. You're not that important. But at the same time, you are special and you are very important.
Yeah, but in your own life, not everybody else's, right?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it is a challenging thing to get to. It really, really is. Like, what do you mean he didn't make me mad? He totally made me mad. It was his actions that made me mad. It's like, it was your response to his actions that made you mad.
Right.
So.
And there's that space, right, that you can take in the moment to recognize that the breath.
That's where you're breathing. Absolutely. It's helpful throughout the day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I always encourage my clients to carry a bottle of water with them, obviously, because I want you to stay hydrated and drink lots of water. But also, if somebody comes at you, or if there is a situation, let's say you're stuck in traffic. Is there any reason to get upset about being in traffic? It's so completely out of anybody's control. but we totally get angry. And
Yeah.
so instead of going to that place, or instead of responding to an angry email, or reacting, let's say, to an angry email, or let's say you're in a board meeting and somebody's coming at you, unscrew your bottle of water and take a couple of drinks of water. You've just bought yourself 15 seconds of not reacting to whatever's coming at you or
I
whatever's
love
happening.
that.
And nobody's going to think you're a crazy person because you're putting your hand up and taking a couple of breaths. You know what I mean? Now, on
Yeah.
your own time, you can do that. And so if you get that email, I highly recommend changing your location. Push yourself away from your desk, walk around the building, go to the bathroom, step away, take a couple of breaths, come back to it. And what that does is it just puts this much space in between you and whatever's going on so that you can kind of think rationally, realizing that the words that they're using are ridiculous, that they don't apply to you, that it has nothing to do with you. They're
That's
upset or reacting to a different situation and coming at you. And so you can handle whatever the actual issue is and not react to the words used to portray that issue to you.
right. Right. And whatever they're doing says more about them than it does about you. It's not about,
100%.
yeah.
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 And so that's where, and even like I had a friend who I was working on breath work with, and she had misplaced her keys and she was running late and there were people waiting on her. And so she's running through her house and she was so frantic and chaotic, and she just stopped and she took 3 deep breaths and she said to herself, I am safe. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And took another breath and stood up. And again, it gave her that much space so that now all of a sudden she's more connected to her center. She's more clear-headed and calm. And she found her keys.
I
She
was going to
left.
say,
She had a great day. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, and so I'm not saying that like breathe, it'll solve all your problems, but actually breathe, it'll solve all your problems.
Right. Right. And I love that you said the I am safe thing. It reminds me of something that I often give to my clients, or it's like just a short mantra about when they are in the, whether it's a state of mistrust, not trusting or anxiety or whatever. It's, I am safe. I am calm. I am here. Here is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I am supported every single step of the way with where I am going.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to trust. And I just love that. And
Ooh, I choose to trust. I need to add
everywhere. Yeah, I try to share that with a lot of people because
Yeah.
something that I've relied on a lot in all kinds of different situations. But I love
think
the water bottle sip thing
yeah.
because that's something that's like super easy. People can use, the listeners
Yeah.
out there use that. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. Like it's super helpful. It's super helpful. Plus then you're getting hydrated. Double. But like it is interesting, like one of the biggest things where people feel out of control is their lack of feeling safe. And so like in any situation, if you're getting into a car with somebody who you've never driven with, or it's, that they're not your favorite driver, or, just take a couple of breaths and remind yourself, I'm safe. I'm here right now in this present moment and I'm safe. And when we have, because we're human, all of the self-doubt and the deprecation and the worry and all of the things that happen on a regular basis, you're okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to be good. You don't have to be bad. Those are not my favorite words anyway. But you're okay. And you're right where you need to be, like you said.
Yeah.
And remembering that you're safe and okay. Okay. I'm not perfect. I don't feel fantastic, but I'm okay.
Well,
So I'm going to move forward.
This lack of feeling safe, like when we don't feel safe in our bodies and things, like this is because we aren't being authentic to ourselves, right? It's our inner being telling us, hey, this isn't, you're not where
you are.
Yeah. You're not, whether it's you're not being, authentic to yourself, you're not making the right choice, like our bodies.
Absolutely.
Feeling safe. It's an indication. It's a heads up, or
Yeah.
it's a word I'm trying to think of.
It's an indication. It's an indicator. Like something's going on.
Trying yourself, your body, your intuition's trying to tell you something.
Yeah. I always say that
you're on the right road.
It's so easy for us to define emotions as positive or negative, right?
Yeah, everything.
And so, yeah. And I think that is really important when you can, again, be aware and in touch with yourself and realize how I'm feeling. How does my body feel? Am I angry? Am I upset? Am I reacting to something? Anger is one of my favorite emotions. Not because I hang on to it and I'm an angry person. I'm definitely not. But when I start to feel anger, I know something's wrong.
Yes.
And I cannot live in the anger, but I can go, whoa, what's going on? And now I can get curious. And now it's my body saying, hey, right here, something's going on. Like, we need to adjust this. And it's like, cool. And so you can actually use those positive and negative emotions as like a compass to
Yes.
follow and live your life, like to guide you through life. If you have a big choice to make, I always tell my clients this. So, free tip, close your eyes, plant your feet, take a deep couple of breaths, and imagine yourself in one of those scenarios. Feel it. What does it feel like? You're in that scenario. See it, smell it. See the people you're going to be around.
Mhm.
How do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel whole? Does your tummy hurt? How do you feel in your heart? Cool. Clear that. Take a couple of deep breaths. Plant your feet. Imagine yourself in the other scenario. See it. Feel it. Smell it. Taste it. See the people. Imagine your interactions. How do you feel? Does it feel good? Does it feel great? Does it make you excited? Does it feel yucky? Not fear, because sometimes making choices is scary. So we're not looking at the fear. We're looking at the feeling of what it will be like to be in either of those situations. And by the end of that little 3 to 5 minute little exercise, you'll know what to do.
Wow, that is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Listeners, like take that away. Take it away with you.
Big.
Because what I thought of when you were saying that is just a big decision that I was trying to make just last week at the beginning of this week. Actually, the last couple of weeks, I was mulling it over and trying to decide what to do. And I was having the hardest time with the decision. And it started to create all this stress in my life. And I've created this life of just like ease and space in between things for myself over the last couple of years. And so like all of a sudden I have all this stress and it's like, oh, I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to do about this decision. And it's like, oh my God, Paula, like you have your answer.
Yeah. That's the thing I have really tried, and this is still a thing I'm working on, because I grew up my whole life not knowing what I wanted, because what I wanted didn't matter. I put everybody else's needs before mine. So I completely turned off that little voice of telling me what I wanted.
Yep.
And so rebuilding that has literally been standing in front of my closet and saying, what do I want to wear today? And following that feeling instead of just being like, well, this will work. Like, what do I want to wear? What do I want to eat? Where do I want to go out to eat? And really, like, because
Yeah.
and say to yourself, I'm listening. I'm listening. I haven't listened for a long time, but I'm listening now.
Oh my gosh. And then listen and follow through.
And then listen and follow. And then that gets stronger every time. And when you start to use your feelings as a guide, you start to like, it gets stronger. But see, I want to just go back to that, like the breath work, taking those couple of breaths and like really feeling into that, taking those couple of breaths to open the closet and say, what do I want to wear? And breathe for a second. All of this stuff, access to yourself, access to your awareness, building your awareness muscle. Like, there's so much like that happens behind the scenes of 2 or 3 minutes of focused breath. That's where I always say that's where, like I said, the breath work is the roots of my tree. The breath work is the gateway to everything.
Everything.
And actually, I don't know if you remember, Amber Lillystrom, she was a guest in our course that we took together. And she's amazing. I highly recommend you follow her on Facebook or Instagram. And she has her own stuff. But she posted something that I actually used in one of my daily breaths on my podcast. And I like tagged her and she was like, oh my God, it was really great. But she talked about how when we think about ourselves as being unworthy, proof of our worth is in the air we breathe. The fact that we're breathing proves that we're worthy. It just blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh. Like I deal with worth issues and value issues all of the time. It's a childhood thing, and it has been massive. Lots of learning about that in the last couple of months. And to read that and to be able to rely on the fact that I'm breathing as proof that I'm worthy of being, I can't even tell you how impactful that was for me.
It's one of those things. I totally understand why it's so impactful. Like it is for me, just hearing it that way too.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you hear it a different way and it has so much more power and resonance with you, then because it's another way of saying you're worthy just because you're alive.
Yeah.
We've all heard that so many times, right? It's kind of like you see all the memes, you see all the things, but it doesn't really sink in.
Right.
And so that's where it sinks in, is when you
Yeah.
hear it a different way like that.
It reminds me, I was doing this cathartic thing for myself at the beach last summer, and I was crying and I was doing this stuff, and it was so lovely, even though it was painful. Like I knew that that's what I was there to do. I was releasing some stuff, and then I was also there to celebrate myself, because that's something that I haven't done my whole life,
Right.
And so, and anyway, this whole thing that I did, and it was phenomenal. And I've never talked about it actually, so I need to do that. But I looked out and there were dolphins. I live in New York. And so like I don't know if you know this, but there's loads of wildlife in our oceans, like off the coast of New York. And there were these dolphins playing, and I just was like immediately filled with this joy of seeing these dolphins. And like I saw them a couple of times and I was like, I want to see you again. And I didn't see them, and I'm looking out, and it was like, well, you bring joy just by being there. And it was like, I'm not kidding you. It hit me like a lightning bolt. I was verbalizing what that dolphin was bringing to me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not kidding. It knocked me over. I was like, I said it out loud, and it was like, I mean, I'm getting chills now. It was like, that's the universe's message to me. Even though I was saying it to a dolphin. Like, I'm not a big dolphin person, but trust me, I have dolphins in my house now because it was like, this is my reminder. Julia, Paula, everyone, you bring joy just by being.
I am in love with you. Oh my gosh. That is amazing. Yeah. I love that so much. I, so just before we wrap things up, because we're getting to that time,
Yeah.
you are creating this, you've gone through such a huge transformation, and you're creating this different life for yourself, right? Or you have created this different existence for yourself.
Yeah.
And I like to say lately that I'm creating this life that I can't wait to get up for every day, that I can't wait to wake up for.
Yeah.
And that's what being more authentic to me has done for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what has it brought to you? What, shedding all the stuff that you've shed, becoming more aware, changing your life, stepping out in all these ways that you never thought that you would,
No.
that you're doing now. What has it brought to your life? What?
I'm laughing because it's impossible to put into words.
I know, right?
And like my head's going, well, I could talk about this, I could talk about this, I could talk about this. I think that I wake up every morning, and the first thing I do is I say, good morning, Julia. And I look out my window because I have my drapes down like a foot so that they don't even go all the way up, so that I can look out and see the sky. And I can immediately be grateful for a beautiful day, even when it's gray. And I can immediately start controlling, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
the trajectory of my day, because I already am saying hi to myself. I'm grateful for the day. I'm grateful for the universe. I'm grateful for my comfortable bed and for a good night's sleep. And oh my gosh, my PJs are so comfy. And oh, I love my pillow making my bed. This is my favorite bedspread. Like, that's gratitude. And all of a sudden, that's the direction I'm headed in. And I get to do that for myself every day. And so often we talk about how life sucks, or we grew up, life sucks.
Yep.
Or I've talked to friends, I've been like, how you doing? Well, life is really lifing right now. And it hit me. Life is mine. Life is yours. Life isn't a thing that happens, that sucks, that life's that, and I am 100% in control of my life.
That's right.
And if my life is shit, what is that saying? If you say life sucks, do something about it. Like, I remember thinking that when people said life sucks, it was just like, it's like if you want to say life sucks, say the world sucks. You know what I mean? Even though I don't believe that's true either. But do you know what I mean? Like, at least that's outside of you. But your life is your life. And if you're not happy, if you don't like the direction of your life, if you don't like the direction that you're going in, you have the power. Take back your power. Take back your power and live the life you want.
Yeah.
And I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Neither do you. None of us do. But I know that today, right now, fuck, am I glad I'm here. I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Me
I'm so
too.
glad that as I say this to you, I am reinforcing it to me.
Yeah.
Like truly, Paula, everything we've talked about today feels like this was for me. And so
Amazing.
like, and that's the way life is. That's the way the universe works. That's when you realize that it's not us against them, that it's not us against God, that it's not us against anything like that, but that we get to co-create this life together by me getting in touch with my inner being, which I believe very much is me getting in touch with the spirit, the source energy part of me.
Yeah.
That means that, why do you think it's so calming when you breathe? Why do you think you're automatically relaxed and like I was going to say encompassed in this peace? It's because you're connecting to God or the universe, or fill in the blank for what works for you.
Because it's flowing through us.
Because we are that in physical
Human form.
form.
Yes.
And so when you can realize that like me listening to me is me listening to source, me listening to me and decide, like allowing that part of me to guide me, that means we are co-creating this life together, which means that I can't fail. There's no room for doubt because I know that I'm doing this because I'm supposed to be, because that's what the universe, source, spirit, God, whatever wants for me and with me. Let's play together. Let's create. Let's have fun. Let's be the joy. You know, like, so I'm not answering your question,
Yes, you
except that
are.
it's brought me this awareness of how amazing it is. And I will never forget Abraham Hicks. I don't know if you listen to them or know them at all,
I do.
but I heard them say, we so often think of happily ever after as this castle in the sky that we have to make this journey to end up there. That's not true.
No.
Right now, happily ever after, if I'm happy in this moment, and then in this moment, and this moment, and this moment, it's being happy in every moment after, starting right here and right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, when I'm breathing, I am here, I am right here in this present moment, because I don't have any control of anything else except for this moment right here. And right now, I can tell you, I'm full of joy. I'm so happy to be here. And now, and now, and now,
And now,
that's the way I want to live my life.
yes.
And now that I'm aware of that, I can.
And even during the hard times, right? It's like all glitter on the path because there's messages for us in the things that are closed
Absolutely.
doors or things we thought we wanted that we're not getting. It's all glitter on the path. It's all giving us messages and sending us on the path we're supposed to be on.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing.
And I feel like too, like, if you believe that everything happens for a reason and that the universe is in control and that everything is happening as it should, I'm not saying that. What is that saying that people say? Everything happens for a reason. I don't know that it's the reason part that always hits me up, that I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's true. But I do believe that everything happens as it should.
Yeah.
Everything happens as it's supposed to. And if I believe that, then I believe that, whether I like it or not, whether I'm happy with the situation or not, whether I'm happy with who's in the office or who's being elected or I don't have any idea what the grand plan for that is. I don't know that I want to know.
Exactly.
So I'm going to do what's in my control to put my views out there. And after that, everything's going to happen as it should.
Yep.
And I can trust that and then let go of it. And now all of a sudden I'm not harboring any anger or any vitriol and I can be happy right here, right now.
Right here, right now. That's where your power is. Take your power back. That'll be in the show notes for sure. We only have control over ourselves, and let's not give our power away by giving it away to everything external to us.
Mm-hmm.
I am so delighted that we are on this together right now.
Absolutely.
And that we are in this human existence and that we are connected.
Me too, Paula. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on, Julia. I have enjoyed this immensely.
Me too.
And I can't wait for it to air. So
Yeah.
Julia, tell everybody where they can find you.
So
People are going to want to check you out.
The best place to find me is on the Life After Breath podcast, which is I've got 3 different segments. So there's a daily podcast that the segment's called Our Daily Breath. And then Talk It Out Tuesdays is just me chatting about some of this stuff. And then we go to the lab every Saturday where I have conversations with lovely people like yourself. You can find me on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And then I do have a Facebook community for the podcast. It's the Life After Breath Facebook community, which I like. I go live every Thursday evening and we talk about the Talk It Out Tuesday. And then I have special guests. I'm having a special guest this week, actually. And then that's where there's extra content for people. Sometimes there's lots of Q&A. I often put different offers out there to like try stuff out. I'm going to be doing like a little group coaching type of thing with people in that, like members of that group. So that's a really good place to go if you want to play a little bit with me.
So cool. Check her out. I'm telling you, you are going to love Julia.
And then I'm Julia Christine Health on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. So
yeah,
that's me.
I love your spirit and your soul. And we absolutely have to stay connected, which I'm already in your group. So we will, but
100%. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Love you.
Love you too. Mwah.
Oh my God. Isn't she just brilliant and such pure magic? She's so fucking amazing. I can't even stand it. I just love her so much. And it's so cool how easy it seems to be for her to articulate everything that we talked about. It just flowed like butter right out of her mouth. And I just admire that when I see it in somebody because it's something that I'm working on. But I remember when we finished recording that episode, I remember being so high on life and the connection we had and love when we finished that conversation, like so much so that I hit an ego edge the next day. And I remember doing a social media post about how like I was doubting that we shared that connection and that high vibe and that loving presence that I felt in our conversation and that I know she felt too. But the connection that I had during that conversation with her, like it left me with so much joy that my ego, it was playing with me. It was telling me things like, oh, she didn't really feel that way. And she, didn't like the conversation as much as you. And it was just my ego trying to keep me small. But anyway, that's how much like I got out of the conversation that I ended up hitting an edge about it, which tells me how amazing it was. One of the things that I really resonated with that Julia talked about was that spiral analogy that she used to explain the layers of awareness and healing. I see that in myself, and I just really like that analogy compared to some of the other ones that I've heard. She said that we encounter an issue and become aware of it, and we make some choices and changes around it, and then we understand, and we're sort of, going along, doing better, and then that we come back around on that spiral and we hit it again and become more aware. There's like a deeper part to it, another layer, more aware about that situation, and we make more change, and we grow and evolve, and then we continue to go through that spiral cycle. And sometimes it takes a bit, and we need to always remember to give ourselves grace. Because we've practiced, being that other way, whatever it is, self-hate, negative cycles, whatever, for so many years, that when we make different choices and changes, we need to make sure and treat ourselves like a toddler who's learning how to walk. And we don't say, you fucked up again. No, get the fuck up. No, we say, yay, you took one step, And so we need to remember to do that for ourselves. But Julia has gone through another evolution since our conversation and is now an intuitive healer. And when I saw her recently at the podcasting summit, she told me how it all came about, how it came from guidance from spirit and following her breadcrumbs and her intuition and her inner knowing, and how it really feels like home for her and where she's supposed to be. And I'm just so happy for her, and that has this new path that she's walking on. And I'm super grateful that I get to have a healing session with her tomorrow, which is the day that this episode drops. I can't wait. I'm super excited about it. And again, I'm just so happy for her and I want to lift her up as much as possible. So go listen to her podcast, Life After Breath, and follow it and subscribe and follow her on social and find a way to get into her world. You won't be disappointed. Okay, here are the takeaways from our conversation. And there are a lot. I've been working on trying to reduce takeaways, but there was so much goodness in this conversation. So here we go. Number 1, listen to your inner voice. Use your feelings as a guide. Number 2, words carry energy and they matter. How you speak to yourself matters. Number 3, awareness is the key to change and transformation. It's not always easy and it comes in layers or spirals, but it's the key to everything. Number 4, boundaries can make you a new person. Number 5, and this is something that comes up over and over in my podcast episodes, it's okay to not know who you are and what you want. Find ways to get in touch with yourself and allow the process of self-discovery. Get curious without judgment, explore your beliefs, recognize what parents, religion, and society have told you is true, and ask what is really true for you. Incorporate practices to connect and get in tune with yourself, like breath work or meditation or ecstatic dance or whatever is your thing. This will allow you to live a soul-led life. Number 6, there are 5 major facets of wellness that are the branches of our tree of life: physical, mental, spiritual, sexual, financial. These are the things that have massive influence on our well-being. The pathway to these 5 is awareness, which is the trunk of the tree. Build your awareness muscle and explore in the branches of your tree through practices like breathwork and meditation or ecstatic dance or whatever your gig is. Number 7, you can be a sexual being and a spiritual being at the same time. Honor both of these parts of yourself. Yes, is what I say to that. Number 8, you cannot move forward if you are mired in guilt and shame. Get curious in a non-judgmental way. Number 9, working on loving yourself is a process. Allow it to be. Each layer brings more profound and powerful change and is shorter than the last. Number 10, you are allowed to have shitty human moments. Have a non-judgmental shitty day and move on. Then start the new day in gratitude. Number 11, choose your hard. Making changes and practicing self-love is hard, but sitting in self-hatred, shame, and guilt is harder. It will surely lead to disease later in life and will negatively affect all of your relationships in the meantime, including the longest and most important relationship you'll ever have in your life, which is the relationship with yourself. Take steps now so you don't have to deal with that. Once you're aware, you can't go back. Number 12, growing and evolving means you will leave some people behind, but you also will find your tribe, your true tribe. You are never alone. Number 13, no one can make you feel or do anything. Your feelings and reactions and responses are your choice and your responsibility. Number 14, proof of our worth is in the air we breathe. The fact that we are breathing proves that we are worthy. And that one is a big one for me because I've had so many worthiness issues throughout my life, and they still creep up. 15, we are co-creating our life. God, source, universe is flowing through us. We are that in physical form, which means we can't fail and there is no room for doubt. Who's ready to try mud water? It's the coffee replacement drink I have every morning, and I think it's best with a little honey and oat milk. My 2 favorite things about it are that it's organic and that it's made with mushrooms, so it has tons of health benefits. Here are 6 things to love about mud water. Number 1, it helps with focus and gives you energy without jitters. Number 2, it's loaded with 2.2 grams of mushrooms per cup, and it doesn't taste like mushrooms. Number 3, it's surprisingly delicious as fuck. Number 4, it's 100% organic, clean, and pure. Number 5, it supports your immune and gut health. Number 6, the company supports mental health, and they do. They're a big supporter of that. The best part is you can get 15% off with my link, which is mudwater.com/Paula Schuster. That's MUDWTR.com/PAULA
SCHUSTER. I'll put a link in the show notes too. It was pretty amazing hanging out with you today, and I look forward to next week on the Scared as Fuck and Doing It Anyway podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Like, life is life, and we all fill our days with the things that we love and appreciate and that we need to do and that we want to do. And I'm just super grateful that you take time out of your day to be here. I hope my podcast gives you new perspective. I hope it sparks inspiration. I hope it adds positivity to your day. I hope it gives you permission, the permission you need to live your life for you. And I hope this particular episode helps you consider what you can do to lead a more soul-led life. There are many more amazing episodes on the way, so please make sure that you follow along and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening. And if any of the episodes resonate with you, then share them with somebody. Like, it would be so cool if you took a second and emailed or texted the link to this episode to someone who you think could really use this conversation, or, conversations in any of the other episodes for that matter. And it would be really fucking cool if you left a rating or a review. They just bring me so much joy, and it also helps other people find the podcast and keeps us going. And finally, I would love to hear from you. One of the reasons why I started this podcast, I say it all the time, is because I want to connect with more people, and I don't know who you all who are listening. You have the ability to get in touch with me, but I don't have the ability to get in touch with you. So we don't have to talk about the podcast or anything. We can just say hey and get to know each other. You can always reach me at paula@reikiflowmn.com. I love you all so much. Peace out.